Greetings, friends! Welcome back to another stellar episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, here for a brief introduction before today's spooky good time of an episode. People, it's official. We're on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod, the best way to support the show. The best way to get the most out of this show for yourself. You get a vote on the Patreon exclusive movies every month. We have a big library of awesome episodes over there. You get feature-length commentaries. Our new miniseries, Tales from the Grift, a deep dive into every episode of Tales from the Crypt, is dropping next month. So we're working really hard to make sure that it's worth your time and support over there, guys. It means the world to us. For those of you who do support us, we thank you so much. For those of you who are about to, thank you as well. Make sure you go to YouTube. Subscribe to our channel, Film Alchemist. You can email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Make sure you're leaving 5-star rating and reviews wherever and everywhere you find the show. Find us on the socials. We're there. We're cool. We're hip. We're putting the time in, right? We're getting our miles in the digital square, as they say. But you're not here for that. You are here for another exciting horror movie episode. 31 days, 31 pods, the October Mega Marathon. We are in the really fun section now, right? Now we have brought our friends so that you can be friends with them too. Today we're talking about one of the most seminal movies of my life, right? When I was young, my father brought home the VHS of Monster Squad. The Monster Squad changed me at a very genetic level, it felt like, right? The moment I saw that movie was one of the first times as a little kid I truly saw myself represented in art that I was imbibing, right? Monster Squad meant everything to me. Like I said, I did a lot of the Star Wars, Star Trek debate when I was a kid, but I was more interested in, are you a Goonies guy or a Monster Squad guy? We're probably both, most of them. We like both. But I was a Monster Squad kid, man, and when I found other kids that liked Monster Squad, it meant the world to me. This movie has had a huge resurgence, right? It's kind of this new cult classic, people discovering it, falling in love with it. I think it is an absolute blast of a film. I was so happy we were joined by our returning friend, Jay Rollins, comic book artist extraordinaire, who also loves this movie. And we had this kind of fun movie therapy, right? Talking not only about Monster Squad, but about what happens to us as we age, right? And these movies that were so beloved and seminal to us in our younger days, how they age and travel with us. Jay is just an awesome, funny guy. We have an absolute blast every time we get to record. I wish him all the success and luck in the world, man. He's a wonderful guy who you will probably be hearing more of. Jay has an ambitious guest host schedule that he laid out upon us. So if that happens, you guys will be in such luck to have those episodes with Jay as well. Again, thank him so much for making the time. Go support Jay, man. Find all his details in the show notes. Go support Jay, man. He's a great, great member of our squad. So without further ado, Monster Squad with our friend, Jay Rollins. Guys, welcome our friend and returning guest, Jay Rollins. Would you be so kind as to introduce yourself to the people and introduce the movie you selected for today?
I am Jay Rollins, comic book artist of comics you have never read unless you go to comic book conventions and go to the right table, or you are a Kickstarter aficionado.
Yeah.
And today I have picked Monster Squad, which is very special to me. Very, very special to me. I'm going to send this link to all my siblings.
Nice. Hell yeah. So you're saying we shouldn't count on the onslaught of the Rollins Hive for this episode? No, I'm actually fucking stoked you picked this, because we're almost to 500 episodes. And every now and again we'll get to a movie and we're just like, I can't believe we haven't done that movie yet. Because we all made like our list when we started, right? Of like, what are the like 10 to 20 movies you absolutely want to talk about? And this was, of course, on mine. This is one of the seminal, most formative movies of my life, right? Like I talked
so
about,
glad.
Yeah, because there's like Big Trouble Little China, I see right behind you. Gremlins, there were like a handful of movies that just like, as soon as I saw them, they changed me on a core level, right? Like, this is the kind of movies I want for the rest of my life. And this was one of them. And I remember we kind of talked about this, but as I got older and like got to college and I was in film school, I was stunned by how many people this movie just wasn't a part of their childhood. I thought this was everywhere.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of the interesting thing about Monster Squad at this point is it's had a real resurgence in the last, decade or so.
Well, how did you get Monster Squad? Because my Monster Squad experience is, now that I look at it later, very bootleg. Well, how did you get Monster Squad in your life?
Same thing. My dad was at a gas station, and like they had it as like a, whatever, like $2 VHS they were just trying to get rid of. And that's where my dad found it. He would always buy like whatever the cheap movie was at the local gas station in our small town. And he just brought home this movie, Monster Squad, because I was a huge fan of one of the early movies I really loved was Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, I think.
You Meet the Monsters? Yeah.
And so it was like Frankenstein and all these monsters. I loved Abbott and Costello when I was a kid. And so he's like, oh, you like Universal movies. We used to watch Creature from the Black Lagoon all the time. And so my dad somewhere is like, oh, this will click. It's got monsters in it. And yeah, he just brought it home and it just fucking like melted my brain. Like I absolutely fell in love with this movie the moment I saw it.
Alex, what's your thing?
I mean, I saw it on cable. It was one of those things where I like, like when you're a kid, you want to see what your threshold is for, at least for me, I want to see what my threshold was for like being scared. And I also loved I loved the Universal Monster movies. So this was like right up my alley. So when I was a kid and it just popped up on cable, and I was a kid who hated sitting through commercials. I sat through all those fucking commercials to watch this thing. I was
never a channel changer either because I was afraid I'd miss something. So I would just sit, right? Like everyone I knew.
This one was one I was like, I'm sitting here and watching this. But I didn't see the very opening until I was much older because of cable. Yeah. What's interesting about I think our generation in general is all of us are cable kids. So so many movies we've seen probably 40 to 60 minutes of, and there's vital information towards the front or the end that totally got lost.
I never thought about that. Shit is gone now. Cause I could say that on this thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The old S word.
Curse it up.
How dare you?
That's gone now. There are so many, dozens and dozens of conversations where it's I've never seen the beginning of this movie in my entire life. This is a very important movie to me, but I don't remember this. My Monster Squad experience is genuinely a weird combination of the two of you, because there was a time in 94, 95, 96 when HBO, Showtime, whatever, the movie channels, or even a thing called the movie channel, would be you get this, we're just going to pop it up. You can have it for a week. You can have the movie channel for a week. You can have HBO for a week. And what my mom would do was, when those weeks came, get a blank VHS and tape everything.
Yep. That's what my nanny used to do.
And my Monster Squad experience is a very special VHS that I still am trying to find, that opens with The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz, which is very important to me too because it was on this VHS, gets cut off right before they go into Emerald City. I didn't know anything past. Seriously, It's if I was the king of the forest, and then it's Your Majesty, if you were to, and then we are into Monster Squad. Monster Squad is next for me.
Yeah.
If I ever watched Wizard of Oz, it's no, Monster Squad is supposed to pop up. And then
these kids are gonna fuck up that witch.
After that is Overboard, starring Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn.
Wow, that's a banger of a VHS, man.
You guys have kids, right? And they'll watch the same thing over and over again. That VHS of those three movies is, I'm the youngest of five. The five of us would just watch that on a loop.
Yeah. No, I mean, my kids now are pretty much paying for teenagers on YouTube to live their lives. These lives of fucking hey, we're going to blow up a TV today in front of a homeless guy. And my kids are just yes. And
I was watching Kurt Russell gaslight Goldie Hawn, and it was great.
We were watching Rudy fucking sexually blackmail the neighbor girl, right? The way ethics intended, yeah.
I thought Rudy was the coolest fucking guy in the world.
Fucking coolest.
But like, keep in mind, he's 14 years old hanging out with 10-year-old. He is a loser. This
there's
guy,
there's that adult
this
thing.
guy
You're like,
rolls
oh
up
wait.
to his other 14-year-old people with his bicycle, lights up a cigarette with his 1950s shit, and then just like, oh my god, dude, it's 1987.
Are you telling me that's not cool all of a sudden?
What do you say?
If I skidded into the end of the cul-de-sac where my kids' friends are playing and lit a cigarette, and they wouldn't be like, that guy's fucking awesome.
At 36, I wish I was that cool still. I've never done anything as cool as that.
But he knows he can roll up on 10-year-olds and be cool. And actually, that's what he does. He does that so that he can, like, he sees fat kid. He's a loser in his own world. So he sees fat kid getting bullied, and he's like, I'm king of this castle. I'm going to make this stop.
You're making this nefarious. I always thought that's why he was cool.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
He's bullied in his own world, and he sees younger kids get bullied. He rolls up. He's like, I'm not going to, not today. Eat the candy bar.
He loves hearing those kids go, Rudy.
Rudy's the hero of this sequence.
I mean, this is the thing. Rudy has some questionable decisions in the movie at this point. But still, I mean, to me, of like the 5 coolest moments in the movie, when they're trying to read the, incantation in front of the church, and Rudy, like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm in the fucking squad, ain't I? Or he doesn't say fucking, right? He was still 14.
I'm in the goddamn club, aren't I?
And he just walks up on the fucking brides. I was like, yeah, that guy's awesome. Like, that's so the coolest dude.
Oh, man.
He wastes the brides. He fucking takes out the like, Rudy was down to help these kids.
Yes.
When you say it as like, when I was in high school, when I thought it was cool to be hanging out with 8-year-olds, that changes it a hair for me. Like, that's a little sadder than I used to read it. Because to me, I watched it as a kid, and I was like, oh my God, if only this cool older guy would come and like show us the ropes. I had an older cousin who was like that, right? Like, I used to sneak into his room to see what was cool. So this is a fucked up thing. I had 2 older cousins, right? The one guy was old. He was in high school when I was like a kid. So I used to sneak in his room, and he had like this awesome Army of Darkness poster. He had great like cassettes and shit. So I was always trying to be like, what's cool? I want to be a part of that. I had another cousin who I thought was even cooler, and he used to hang out with me and play and like, teach me fucking how to fight and shit like that. He ended up going to jail as a fucking pedo. So that's the thing. Be careful. Be careful of who the cooler older kids are.
Yeah. Who wants to hang out with, look, he's only like 13, 14. So these 11-year-olds are not that far removed. He's in junior high. Like, I just don't think he fits in. And I think
not in junior high.
His like,
you're saying the Monster Squad had a monster before Frankenstein, and it was Rudy.
His 50s motif. All right, I want to get into this. His 50s motif is the creators of this movie. Mm-hmm. It's 1987. So if you're like 30 to 45, your seminal moment in life, just like our seminal moment was watching this, your seminal moment in life was watching these Universal Monsters movies. You make this at the wrong place in the wrong time. We have to mention this movie made no money.
And reviewed poorly.
It is incredibly
that's fucking
tone deaf. Let's remember that we did get this at a young age. Who is this movie for? This is a movie ostensibly for kids.
Yes.
But no, it's not. No, it's not. But it's also catering
this is a
to
changing
adults,
perspective, though. This is we used to get movies like this where it was actually dangerous and had rough edges for kids.
Yeah.
No.
Movies today have not. A lot of movies were like that.
No, Goonies has rough edges. This movie has, those edges are smoothed. So it's really, this is growing pains from 80s movies, the Goonies, 90s movies, Blank Check. It is somewhere in the middle. It's somewhere in the middle.
That's
and it's
good.
just at the wrong place, wrong time, because it is too cute to be the Goonies, but it's also too dark to be Blank Check.
I like that.
Do you remember being like, with $1 million, I can buy every toy I want in a mansion?
But I like that analysis because that makes sense. Because it's one of those, like, Monster Squad is an example of a movie that has to walk so another movie can run. Like, The Goonies is a great example of just, like, a movie that just, like, happened. Like, The Goonies was Richard Donner, it's Steven Spielberg, like, it's all these elements that make a great movie, but, like, it's a swashbuckling adventure. It's not scary, like the way traditional movies would be scary.
This is let me
it's
jump
in the title,
on that,
Monster Squad. Nobody knows what a Goonie is. Everybody knows what monsters are.
The Goonies were unrelatable, right? Like I'm so tired of like the Star Wars, Star Trek thing of my childhood, right? That was like our huge battle on the bus. I'm way more interested. Are you Team Goonies or Team Monster Squad? Monster Squad is a better movie than the Goonies. Let's just say that up front.
It was because it was too late. From 77 with Star Wars up until late 70s, early 80s was 1940s nostalgia. You got Star Wars as Buck Rogers. You've got Indiana Jones is like all those adventures. You've got Goonies, which is swashbuckling adventures. This is the Universal Monsters. It came too late. It's almost the 90s. You should have done this in 1984. If you had done this in 1984, Universal might have picked it up, and you wouldn't have to put the Creature from the Black Lagoon as like Swamp Monster or whatever the fuck it is.
Gilman.
Which is really funny, and you can really see how like monolithic the movie industry is right now, because like you have to go to Paramount Plus to get it now, and like they probably actually like own the rights to it. But it comes at the wrong time. That's not what people want anymore. It was probably, I don't know too much about the writing of it, but it was probably written when like this was what you should do. But it's also written so much from a 40-year-old's perspective, even though it's not the way that Steven Spielberg did it, where it's like the kids versus the adults. The adults are so like the adults are all great dads. Like and like mom's a bitch. That's like the whole.
But there was that. But see, like that's that. Thing
I am
in the
taking
80s.
umbrage with all of this. Also, I can hear like everyone who listens to our show being like, wait, did Griffey just say that Monster Squad's a better movie than the Goonies?
But you know what, though? The Goonies...
We could have that
Here's
debate.
the other thing, though. Jay's right, though. Because the reason Monster Squad didn't get a chance is not because... It has everything to do with release. Because this movie is for children. Like, it should be for kids. It should be marketed towards kids. This movie was released August 14th, 1987. What happens in August for all kids? They go the fuck back to school. August 14th is almost exactly when they're supposed to be going back to school. And there is a huge problem with that, because also this is exactly where August and January are usually where they start dumping movies a lot of the time. So like there's no marketing behind this.
Didn't Lost Boys come out the same weekend?
Yeah. And it is better, it is I think the real thing that happened, and like the real reason we went from Goonies to Blank Check and Richie Rich.
I love that those are our two fucking seminal movie moments.
Richie Rich,
Lost Boys came out July 31st.
Like our memory of these 90s sort of like plucky cute movies is because Temple of Doom, when's that? 1984?
Temple of Doom is is it?
But see, Temple of Doom is like a really fucking scary movie that everyone thought their kids could go to.
That movie was PG-13, and that movie was the reason they invented the R rating. And so PG-13 got castrated. So this movie is PG-13 in a post-Temple of Doom world. It could have been something different. It's not. I mean, just say, it's still great. It also looks like a lot of stuff was cut out. Watching it today, I was like, why is this movie like fucking 45 minutes long?
Yeah, this movie's tight. They do it's in and out. That's an 80-minute movie. Like they do not fuck
and
around.
why does Dracula even like the Wolfman says he's going to kill your son? How does he know that? When did we see anything having to do with Dracula finding out that
he's part
this
of
kid has
the
book?
true Monster Squad when he sends Frankenstein out to murder the kids? Right? He knows that he's got the journal. It's all there.
This movie moves at a
how
does he know he has the journal? He got it at a garage sale from his mom.
I do wonder why it was in the garage. Who was running the garage sale at that?
This is all over the place. It's crazy.
This is a debate we've had all month long about like horror iconography and stuff like that. Because we were talking about because we did Hellraiser with the lament configuration. We did Wishmaster with like the little opal. we're leaving a lot of stuff just lying around that magically shows up, like garage sales, like just in Foot Lockers, places. Like literally nobody is paying attention to some of these things. Like, and this is an important piece.
The writer just loved the Universal monsters and wanted to get there, which is why the third act is some of the greatest cinema that ever happened. Like, the weirdest thing about this movie is all the acting is top notch. Absolutely all of it.
This is one of the best group of kid actors in any movie.
The cinematography is great. The special effects are great, especially for how small of a budget they had. But the pacing is so weird. Like, for instance, I just watched it today. He comes up to the Monster Squad and declares that they are the Monster Squad, and he says, "Do you understand that the Wolfman exists and that this exists and whatever?" With no proof. He heard his dad say a thing, and he's serious. He is so.
That's how
serious.
It used to be, though. Whatever our parents said, we just thought was true. We didn't have the internet.
Next scene, is his sister meeting Frankenstein. Why can't you reverse that shit? And then him being like, "Oh man, Dad was talking about the Wolfman." And then when he says, "And Dracula could be here too,"
that's important. Though.
Why?
That's an important filmmaking choice, because what it shows is the child leap of faith. They have full belief in what they're doing. To me, this was the ultimate wish fulfillment movie when I was a kid.
Same. I agree.
Every single movie when I was a kid, the movie I wanted to be in was the Monster Squad.
The movie
I wanted to be in that
to
fucking treehouse. I wanted to talk with other
like,
kids who liked horror movies.
I wanted my friends to be in my squad. Like, that's what I wanted for my group of friends.
These loners, these kind of like on the edge kids, right? Who so believe in this thing. He hears about a mummy disappearing. He hears about a wolfman. He thinks he has, Alucard or Dracula's journal, right? His mind is revving up. I love the idea of him saying that sentiment in that line, right? When he's trying to do it and they're like, "Oh, fat kid farted, ah." And then he just goes, "Do you know what's happening? People are dying out there. And if it's monsters, no one's going to do anything except for us." That to me was just this call to action. Because parents don't believe in the things that mean a lot to us as kids, right? And when they're saying no one's going to do this except for us, of course, it's kind of a poppycock sentiment, right? Like, of course, it'd be better if the tanks had rolled in, earlier. But that's the fucking thing is, as a kid, you want to fight the monster in the closet.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that this is actually a Griffey tangent, if I'm honest. But the military got a crayon letter from a little kid saying monsters are coming, and they said, "Oh, fuck." Which means the military knows that this is real.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? It's actually so amazing to watch it happen, not from my mouth. That was beautiful. It's true. They're already on alert. They already know that this plane had
it's possible.
Cargo. They're coming in.
Yeah.
Right?
Where are the monsters? Like, he's serious. He's just like, is Dracula here?
Yeah. They've probably been developing this as a weapon.
They've known this for some time.
Especially
but also that's a great thing, right? Is that this whole movie operates from a child's mindset, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you could call in the military and the cops and they were, the ultimate good guys to you when you were little, and they're going to come and answer even a crayon written letter. That's exactly how you think as a child, right? So there is this weird, I don't fully agree that this is a 40-year-old man's version of kids, because to me, this is the ultimate kid playground, right? Like, this is the exact thing that I always, in the way these kids even talked, right? Like, when they talk about, does Wolfman have a job? Oh, well, Goofy drives a car, but Pluto's Mickey Mouse's dog, whatever. That's exactly how we all used to talk.
That's why we're in filmmaking limbo, because are we making Goonies or are we making Clerks? It's does Wolfman have he does. It's 1987. It is exactly sweet spot in this. Like, the 90s is a whole different place for adult movies and kid movies, and these people are writing a movie for no one in particular.
I feel like you're somewhere in the middle with Monster Squad, to be honest with you, because
I don't agree with that, man. This
movie
movie was so aimed at us at 10 years old.
It's aimed at children, but it's also got this whole side story about his mom leaving his there's this fight that was actually written by Shane Black, sprinkled in there.
All those little Shane Blackisms sprinkled here and there.
Because it's like, oh, he's a cop. He's gonna have troubles. Yeah. I got an idea for a movie. I'll see you later.
See, doesn't that? Because I don't know. I grew up in a house where like there was divorce and shit like that. I love that scene, right? The parents are fucking fighting in the other room, and what does he do? He reverts to like code cracking the journal. Right, he retreats back into his monster world. I thought that was great.
Monsters is solace.
And I was a guy who like didn't. My dad left when I was a kid, right? So that scene when like his dad comes home with the burgers and they just watch the drive-in from their roof, I was great. That would have been my happy place if I had had.
But that's old man shit because there were no drive-in theaters anymore in 1987.
How dare you? I saw Free Willy and Rookie of the Year in the 90s. That was my last
drive-in. It is a motif because there's also the Universal Monsters. Yeah. If you want it to be.
But I
feel like you have a very tortured relationship with your love of Monster Squad.
But there's this.
It was just because I watched it again and I was just like, because like I was doing all the lines verbatim, but then I was like looking at it. And also just like the that fight between his mom and his dad. It was like, oh my God, I really am 35, aren't I? Because this shit is hitting me.
Yeah.
That's one of those.
Into it. Yeah.
That's one of those things where like, oh shit.
There you have. This is some good acting. That's some good fight writing. Where she says, "I can see it in your eyes," and he's just like, "Oh, you can see everything in my eyes. Look at my eyes."
Fuck, what are you, a fucking Miss Cleo? What's going on over here?
That's so real.
How real is that? How many times have you had that fight with your, significant other at this point? Like, it's one of those things like, oh yeah, you know everything, huh? You just can see it all. You know me so well.
I gotta go. It's important. I'm important. And you're like, damn it. I should have seen that fight coming. I should have seen that light coming. No, I don't know. I think this movie is the perfect kids movie, in my honest opinion. Because in the 90s is when we started getting to Disney kind of took over live action kid movies. Mm-hmm. And they just became weak. They were weak, right? Like there was no children facing down danger like the movies that I loved when I was a kid, right?
Here's the thing. What you're talking about, they shifted the danger perspective. Because like Monster Squad, Goonies, which you can probably say are sort of in the same breath, the danger, like you said, they're facing it down. Like you're going to face danger, like look at it, like instead, like Disney movies started being more about the danger coming toward them. And them not really, like, Blank Check. Like, we brought up Blank Check. Blank Check is an absurd premise, but, like, no kid who has $1 million thinks they're in danger at some point. They spend their money and they live their life. And they're like, oh, I don't really care where the money came from. Yeah. Like, the danger arrives.
But so here's an interesting parallel, right? For our last movie of the month, we're doing People Under the Stairs. That's a brilliant movie about a little boy facing down this fucking big, scary monster. That's a movie that is specifically written for adults with a callback to like child nature. I think this is the exact opposite, man. I think this is written directly at us. Is there some shit that went over my, like when I was a kid, I had no idea what the German guy was talking about when he's like, I know real monsters, right?
Yeah.
And they showed the tattoo, like that didn't lay on me.
He was in the Holocaust and I just like, what's that? He's like, oh, I don't. Yeah,
right.
Later.
Dude, it's Sunday. I don't want to open this. But that's
I
what
I mean.
When I was like
now.
10 or 9, whenever I saw this, I had no like worldly perspective on it.
No, not at all.
But I think it's still getting to the point, right? The scary German guy still stands as this great moment of, you probably thought I was a monster, huh? We all had that house in the neighborhood, right? You're like, oh, fuck, those people are scary. That house is scary. And then they go in and they're just like scary German guys bitching because he's giving us pie and telling us these yarns, right? I thought, again, that's like another classic moment from childhood that I remember very vividly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's stuff in there, because that's what I think the best kids' movies do, right? Is they're telling the story to you as the kid, so you're like, what a fucking thrilling adventure. But then when your parents who have to take you to the movies are there, there's also some stuff in there for them, right? That, to me, is the thing that Spielberg always did so well. Like, even in E.T., I just resaw that in theaters this summer with my kids, right? And I never really liked E.T., but seeing it as an adult, there's so much more in there for me now that it gave it this whole extra resonance with me, right? And so I think the best kid movies, that's always built in.
That's how I felt when I took my kid to Munich. That was good. That was Spielberg's always got something for
Hank
you.
Is just a high art kind of guy.
Just having this conversation, I have come to a new thought about just like kids movies in general, because like doing that comparison of like you can definitively see what happened to children's movies between early 80s and mid 90s, because they got very cute. And kids used to swear all the time and whatever. And I was talking about this being the new PG-13. This could have been what it turned into, but they got so scared that they pushed so much harder on this could have been like, all right, yeah, like this is actually what a 10-year-old should watch. I don't think they should, you shouldn't have movies where 13-year-olds are smoking. I don't know how they do that.
It's not great, but it's the 80s.
We all grew up with smokers back then.
Yeah, it was the 80s still.
But it's this nicer, cleaner version and there's blood and there's people dying, but it's also who are you? We're the Monster Squad. Like it's
Goonies never die. You got to have a code name, a club when you're kids, man.
There is no Goonies equivalent of I'm in the goddamn club, aren't I? Like that.
Right, because no one in the Goonies is as cool as Rudy.
In his mouth when he says that, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world since I was a little kid. I'm in the goddamn club, aren't I? And then even like the vampire's on him, he's about to do it. Like there's some real stakes in this. But again, the stuff that I've been talking about in this movie, I think the writer of this movie really wanted to get to that third act, because that third act is some of the best cinema
dude,
I've ever seen. There is amazing acting. There's amazing directing. There is top-notch special effects for the time.
I mean, the third act of movies like this is why you make movies
rush
like this.
To get there.
Yeah.
He Deus Ex Machina'd everything to get to this fun.
It's magic child brain.
This is the
Were
other
you
thing
really
too.
like today you're watching it?
My name. I was a fat kid. My name is Horace. Oh,
come
man.
on, that's an all-timer moment. My name.
But that's what it is. Like you get to the end because like all the especially when you're watching a movie as a kid. Like because like I said, when I saw this first time as a kid, I had not seen the beginning. Now, when I watch it now, I'm like, oh man, the opening and like the crawl, and this is like, literally, I was watching it again today, and I was just like, this is like Griffey's. This is why Griffey loves this movie, because this is like got Griffey
opening crawl.
Yeah,
that opening crawl 100% tells you what
they blew it. Perfect.
It's so good.
Perfect.
It's giving you the dark truth of the we are living in a world where gothic horror exists.
Right. So you do all this stuff
and then let's do
That's
it.
exactly what it is.
But
You
Dracula
do all this stuff
changes
and bring your
they
kid
walk in and they fucking waste one of the brides, right? And then the virgin who opens the portal gets fucking sucked into it. You're like, that's a fucking scary opening for kids. But see, I don't know. When I was a kid, I wasn't begging for more backstory on any of this, right? You're like, I know who the monsters are.
That's why we're getting to the third act.
Yeah.
Like, that's why this movie's
but
so
don't
tight.
you like the stuff at the school at the open? I like them in the principal's
Yeah, like,
office.
I
love
do,
that.
but like...
Actually, that part's good too. The first act where we're introducing the characters is great.
Yeah.
Third act where it all comes to a head is great. Second act is like, let's get him the book she found at the garage sale. Where's that amulet come from? Who gives a fuck? Why is Dracula connected to all these people?
The erudite
but
nature.
Like, each motif is great in its own right. The two guys in the plane steal the show. He's just like, why am I in a
But
world
I'm not.
bomber?
That is one of the
in
best
the
arguments, right? Because he's like, this job sucks, and his friend's like, it's not that bad. He's like, you're right. I'm so happy. Like, that was such like a fucking like bitchy coworker thing to do. I love that.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, though. I think Act 2 has awesome shit, right? Because you've got the montage, which is amazing. I think the introduction to Frankenstein. That's what I mean. As soon as you hear it, you're like, yeah.
Rock Until You Drop.
My favorite segment of the movie is the introduction to Frankenstein, right? They have this throwback to James Whale's Frankenstein. So this is a really funny story. I was watching that Boris Karloff documentary, and they talked about how this was like a big debate on the Frankenstein movie, right? Because in the original, he picks the girl up and chucks her in the water. And Boris Karloff didn't want to do it. He's like, that's too fucking horrible of a thing to show to audiences, right? And so they cut it to where, you know, you kind of imagine what's happening, and then you see the, like, flowers on the water or whatever. And these people, like, this film historian's like, in trying to make a less gnarly thing, they essentially, it has this implied, like, sexual assault vibe, right? And you're like, they're not wrong, right? And so when they cut to that in this movie, you're like, oh shit, dude, they're doing the Frankenstein scene.
Yeah.
But the next moment, right, when the boys run away and Phoebe the Phoebe runs up, and when her little hand grabs his giant finger and she's like, quit being chicken shits. And, you know, he's approaching as this scared child, and then all of a sudden he goes, guys, get over here, he's great. I mean, that's the whole thing to me. Like, if that scene doesn't rock you, like,
that's
this
why
isn't
the
your
pastiche.
kind of thing.
No, it's great. You know, okay,
movie.
so I'm just going hard in a bad direction because
no bad directions.
Because I'm old man now.
Yeah,
and
we are.
I love this movie. This movie was so very important to me, and I didn't know there were holes.
But that's what it is, man.
This is what a movie was to me when I was a kid.
That's what movies are. They're infallible when you're a kid.
You know what happens, though, is like I got to show this to my kids the first time. In watching them just fucking melt at how much they loved it, it took me right back to being a kid like that, right? And then and then even that, like watching my kids understand Frankenstein in the clubhouse, seeing the mask of himself and getting really upset by that. Oh my God. I mean, that scene still, like, Frankenstein still, like, brings me to tears in this movie.
Well, I mean, Tom Noonan is genuinely
He's so
a
good.
Brilliant actor who's also really just one of those weird actors. So, like, I wouldn't want to hang out with him.
Yeah. Dude, I was in a movie theater with him, and it was all I could do to not just rush him. He was clearly like, I'm just here to watch a movie, like, because I kind of gave him the look, and he saw that I knew. And he kind of did the, like, come on, man, I'm here on a date. We were actually at 127 hours, the fucking James Franco movie. It's just me and my now
Weird
wife
date.
and Tom Noonan and his date. Watching
That poor guy, that poor thespian who takes himself seriously. He was looking at you and he was like, oh, fuck, Monster Squad or Last Action Hero.
Yeah, I think he knew I was a Monster Squad guy. But at that point, he had also done House of the Devil, I think. So I was like,
House of the Devil is
I
his
fucking
opus.
loved him. I love Tom Noonan.
Or
but
maybe he was thinking,
he's so
oh, this
fucking
guy's going to
good.
come after me about Manhunter.
Yeah.
You better talk to me about Schenectady.
I could have. That's one I want to do on the pod because I just have no idea what the fuck we'd say. But but yeah,
man, let's just do a marathon. We could do Schenectady.
let's just do them all, dude. We've got like millions of movies left to cover, but but that okay. So this scene to me, man, that ending of Frankenstein when he grabs Dracula and bogus. I mean, that just fucking works. And when Phoebe's
but
like,
didn't
"Don't
Terminator
leave me
2
alone."
do it better? Do you see what I'm saying?
Terminator 2 did
Because
everything better than
Bogus
everyone.
Is the preliminary to Hasta La Vista, baby. It genuinely is. They like and Terminator 2 gave us some time to look at it and feel it before this happened.
I'm not here to argue that Terminator 2 is not one of the absolute greatest films ever made. I'm just saying when he's sliding away, Phoebe, and he's smiling at her, right?
Don't
like he's just glad he got this time.
Frankenstein.
Yeah, and she throws her little stuffed animal to him as he floats away. I mean, I cried again today. Like that just always gets me.
Gets you
I
every
fucking
time,
love
man.
Frankenstein in this movie, man. He's wonderful.
Oh, he's so good.
But that's what I
Old
mean.
Frank.
This movie really hits on everything for me, right? 'Cause it's got the like child group that's funny and they're actually good actors, and it reminded me of being a
It's
kid.
incredible.
The monsters in this movie are fucking rad. The Gill Man in this movie looks better than he did in Creature from the Black Lagoon. That is probably the coolest costume in the movie.
Gilman. That's the
Gilman. That's the
like Halloween like knockoff
that's
outfit.
the costume. That's the costume name they use.
Dude, that suit is fucking rad. Because I think the Dracula in this movie is not the strongest film Dracula we've ever seen. He throws this
Dracula's
weird
using
like
dynamite.
looping
I
punches.
don't know. He's bizarre.
Dude, he has his own
bizarre all
Dracula
day.
mobile already ready for him in America. That shit was awesome.
When I was
He's a serial killer in this movie. It's weird.
when I was young enough, because I saw this movie when I was young enough, I wasn't recognizing actors. As I got older, when I started seeing those actors pop up in movies. When John Grease showed up in not just Napoleon Dynamite, but he was in Get Shorty too, I was like, is that the same guy? Like when I saw Get Shorty, I was probably like 12 or 13. I was like, is that the Wolfman? And then
listen, it took till today.
Oh my God.
For me to figure out that the Wolfman is Uncle whatever.
Uncle Rico?
You didn't know the Wolfman could throw a pigskin a quarter mile?
He's so good. I love him in Monster Squad, man.
2005, junior year of high school, sophomore year of high school, watching that movie, everybody's talking about it. I was just like,
He's a guy.
And then it just let it go. I let it go. It's been 15 years, and I finally figured out what that was.
Actually, it took me about a decade and a half as well to figure out that it was like him. It was like, oh wait, that's the Wolfman, the guy from Real Genius, like all these guys, all these movies that I loved growing up.
Everybody's a brilliant actor except his main character's dad, the cop.
Yeah.
His partner.
What?
I will always love that laugh. But they are not matching each other at all.
That is classic.
They were having
cop
two different
movie.
conversations every
Did you take him?
time.
Damn. Just a shot. I thought he was great, man.
Shot. No, he's great. He's just doing a different movie than everybody else is.
He does feel like he's in a different precinct. Yeah. I
love that he's in a different movie than everyone else. That's like really what I lived for particularly these kinds of 80s movies is like there is always one actor who's in a different movie than everyone else. And you're like, that guy's going for it. But for like the wrong thing. Whatever movie he's in, I really want to see that movie too.
There's one Waterworld is an example I'll give of somebody who the only person who knew what movie he was in was Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
Dennis Hopper knew what movie he was making, and he was making it great. Everybody else thought
I think what I love about
we're going to win
is
Oscars for this serious
Costner
fair.
still thought he was doing Dances with Wolves. He wasn't having any fun at all.
Costner thought he was an Oscar winner, and then like everyone else was like, "Oh man,
Dennis Hopper's like, got it. We're redoing Super Mario Brothers. I'm in.
Cool, done. No problem. I'll take care of it. You've got it.
Fuck yeah, dude. No, but I think so. To get it to the third act, man, the horror set pieces in this are fucking phenomenal. I love when they raid the fucking house and they open the closet and find the fucking cheerleader brides.
Yep,
is fucking horrifying.
Okay, so there is that undercurrent as an older person now. I'm like,
stewardesses, right?
Something terrible happened. No, I thought they were fucking cheerleaders.
Yeah.
I thought they were high schoolers.
Yeah. Dracula's a creepy bitch in this movie. Yeah. And that's where you get the classic Wolfman's got nards, which became the like everyone I met I would do that joke to.
Yeah.
And like the one kid who knew what I was talking about, it's like, fuck yeah, dude. But yeah, I think that it's really good stuff, right? Because the mummy gets unraveled by an arrow. When we get to that center of town, this movie just explodes with everything I love, right? I love the dad driving up and fucking shooting the bat out of the sky. When they walk into that fucking warehouse or whatever, and there's like the half-formed Dracula, that scared the absolute dog shit out of me.
Yes.
Holy fuck. That is amazing stuff.
Oh, can we just talk about the us as 10-year-olds, the parts that were like this? That's I know all the bullshit that I've been saying. Whatever. This is an amazing. This is an amazing horror movie for kids. An incredible horror movie for kids. I'm just talking about like grumpy old man shit. This is how.
But that
kids should have horror in their lives. Horror is an important genre. It allows you to feel scared in a safe space. That's a good thing. And oh my god, the makeup effects on this are just like top notch.
Also scared the shit out of me.
And the thing that like the Gill man, that little I still think about that.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's
dude. Even his dying gasp after Horace shoots him, and he like does like his last two breaths. I was like, holy shit! I mean, this was just righteous.
It is like a so much better Gilman costume, isn't it?
Well, I mean, they had the benefit of like, another 30, 40 years.
True. No, I'm not saying it's not like, oh,
the original
well,
Gilman was funny because they had to build it to where that guy could wear it and still swim underwater.
He was preaching from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
Like, but this is such a, but so that's the difference is like, I like that. Yeah. Like we're doing these, like we're not just doing, like, that doesn't look like Boris Karloff's Frankenstein.
Yeah.
I like that.
Also,
like,
the 80s had this fucking explosion of amazing, costuming and effects work.
Right, but like the only one that looks like the classic look is the Dracula. Everybody else looks completely different from what the movie. Like, I mean,
the only one that Universal couldn't sue them on.
That was it. But that was really like everything else has its like sort of original look to it. Like that's really fucking cool, man.
It's one
like,
of those happy accidents,
and you know who they
really
are.
Did want to do everything like the Universal horror movies are real. And this is just another Abbott and Costello Meet the Monsters, but we're doing it. They're still around.
I'll tell you this. When I was a kid, the part that actually scared the shit out of me was when the old German guy is trying to read from the book and the vampire brides are walking down the street. That one, I was like,
the brides
this is
are
fucked
gnarly
up.
in this movie.
Scared the shit out of me.
Fuck. No, and that's another, like, that's a great, they have so many great hero moments. His hero moment, he's still giving her the words. He hands her the book, and he's so scared, but he doesn't know what he's going to do, but he knows that he is not going to let her get hurt. That's so good.
It's beautiful, man. That's what I think is so awesome about this is they get so many of those good, like, deeper moments. Like when the werewolf just goes, "Thank you," before he collapsed. That was like a really weird thing to see as a kid.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that's another thing that I liked that John Grease did it as this is a tragic, like he played it as a tragic character. Like I like
that was
that
such
thing
a
about
throwback to the Lon Chaney Jr. Wolfman, right?
Yeah, the Lon Chaney Jr.
really
Wolfman. That's what we should be doing.
Yeah, because he just had that beautiful, like, sad mope face. And he really channeled that in this movie. I mean, I thought that was fucking rad, man.
It was. It is.
But even then, when fucking Sean saves his dad and hits the Wolfman, and then he puts the fucking dynamite, down by his dick and throws him out the window. Fucking awesome. The werewolf reconstituting at the time, like, melted my brain. I was like, holy shit, they can do that? Just awesome, man. Just fucking
for the listening audience, my headphones just died, so if my voice sounds like it's being recorded by an iPad.
This is that real grown-up shit we've been talking about. Dude, imagine this moment as older audience.
How do you kill a werewolf?
Oh, yeah.
He says, blown up by a bomb. No.
And thrown out a window and lands on a bomb, dude. Perfect throwback.
Accident with power tools? Yeah. No, because he got tortured by Dracula. No. They cover them all. See, that's layers. That's layers.
That's fucking layers, dude. I'll tell you a scene that fucking was so much scarier today than I remembered was when Dracula lifts up the little girl. And the dad is trying to rush Dracula, and Sean holds him back because he doesn't want his dad to die too. And the mom just sits there with this look of horror like, fuck, we can't do anything. And when he hisses right in her face, I was like, God damn, this is like super aggressive. I thought that was awesome. Because that's the thing. If I had a gripe, it's that Dracula to me is the weakest part of the film. But in that moment, like when he's walking like the Terminator towards them and he's just fucking the cops up, and when he hisses in her face, you're like, yeah, dude, Dracula is fucking nailing this finale.
You bitch.
You bitch.
You can, and she's not acting. You can see how scared she is because she, he's only holding her by her chin. And, you can tell for a second that she's standing on apple boxes. Yeah. Because she's trying to pull her face away from his hand. Yeah.
She's
like the real actress little girl. Like, I don't like this anymore.
Dude, just imagine being a kid on set and being like, wait, we're going to do what? And like seeing that at an age where you're like, this could be real. Like this looks real enough to me. It's fucking, dude, so good. But that's what I mean. Even in that moment, right? It's this perfect mix of like emotionality, awesome horror moments. It's still fucking funny, right? Like when he's like, she's not a virgin, is she? And he's like, well, there was Steve, but that didn't count. Like that was a great moment. Like that was a great payoff.
They introduced her character before she even came up by everybody calling her a skank. I don't even know why. Like
she doesn't take German. She just stands by the dumpster and let guys feel her tits.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
You're
the
not
other
very
one,
kind to her.
the other peppering of comedy. The other peppering of comedy that like I don't think I registered it as a kid, but I thought it was funny. But like today, particularly, I just was rolling. Was when Van Helsing is dragging Dracula towards the portal.
Thumbs
the
up.
thumbs up.
He's like, fucking finally, I've been in
great.
limbo for 100.
He's been
Like,
in
what has he been
limbo
doing in
for
limbo?
100 years.
100 years.
And
But he learned the thumbs up.
He's still so happy. But what's your life now, Van Helsing? You've been stuck in limbo for 100 years, and now you're going to be stuck in limbo with Dracula?
Just learning that thumbs up.
Yeah, who knows
That's
what
all.
limbo's like? He didn't age. He still got his old man strength. Like, maybe limbo's just chill.
Oh, okay. We got to give Van Helsing a shout out because
Zeus?
What's the line? That first scene is honestly like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like Raiders of the Lost Ark. We are watching the end of a movie, a great movie,
really good movie.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
I'm so glad I finally got to see it when I was older.
Yeah, and him with his pocket watch.
So good.
What does he say? Let's hurry up a bit, shall we? Like he's just James Bond and shit.
He's like, hurry up, you fucking little
That was a
teenage
great.
girl.
That was a perfect impression.
But then he goes way too hard on this poor virgin who's like, "Tun sie uns nicht weh,"
And then she gets fucking eaten by the black hole.
Go! Oh, we're all gonna die. You're not.
Yeah.
You're
It
not-
does feel
you're
like
not-
maybe you should
you're not
wait till you
speaking.
see Dracula before you start opening portals and shit. Like maybe put the watch down and let it breathe for a second. I don't know. To me, man, it's just got every fucking like that's what I mean. I saw this at an age where it literally set the standard for me going forward, right? And my whole life I've always been looking for more monster squads, and I think one of the things I love the most about it, there just aren't a lot of great movies in this kind of niche they carved out, right? There aren't a lot of these great, kids fighting monster movies, in my opinion, right? There's a couple of, like, the great ones. But, I mean, to me, I love this one more than Goonies. I think if it had had the muscle behind it that Goonies had, I think this movie would have been a fucking
I'm gonna
massive
throw some
hit.
truths at you. Goonies is fine, and
Yeah.
Goonies is paced fucking weird too. Goonies is not as good as Monster Squad. Even after all I've said about it, Goonies doesn't make sense. Monster Squad has its own reality. Monster Squad has a universe that it created, and it follows its own rules. What is happening with Goonies? There's Pirates in Portland, and yeah, I don't know.
Well, also
And
at
then,
the end, I'm like, that's definitely not legal. You can't just spit jewels into someone's hand and not get evicted.
Yeah,
like all the Goonies are definitely still homeless the next day. But I'm not here to fucking kneecap the Goonies. I also love the Goonies.
But
this one to me spoke so much more. That's the thing. When I watched the Goonies, I didn't really relate with it as a kid. It was a fun adventure.
This is
they
one
had that
where
awesome
you're like,
Cyndi Lauper video with the wrestlers.
I feel this squad.
I felt like I was a part of the Monster Squad. At worst, I was desperate to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. But in those kids, I felt like that was my people.
That's why I feel like this movie is so interesting, because it does focus almost solely on the kids. So does Goonies. And like I feel like in the 70s and 80s, with like you get Poltergeist or whatever, it's supposed to be an adult. That's an adult. But like, you get to see the inner lives of the adults, and then later, I'm still going to go into this motif. In the 90s, adults are just like losers who don't understand that you throw like gack at.
They get double dared.
And this is just the thing about it is that like they really hit like the kids on their own and take that Band-Aid breath, but which is very 90s. It really is.
It is the big difference. Like we just never had parents around. Kids today always have parents around. We were on our own all the time.
I think that because we were a generation of kids who like played outside until sundown a lot of the time. Like there's a lot like that vibe to me is what works.
I don't know. There's still kids.
Here's the difference. This is the difference though, because this is 87, and then you get to the 90s where we have like Disney dominating these like kids doing the craziest things movies. We had a war in between that. Persian Gulf War happens.
Oh, damn,
like there's a whole reality check.
Do you remember the 3 days of Desert Storm?
Well, I don't, but I know that it happened. Like it's one of those things.
Do you remember when George Bush Sr. was trying to get his weapons back that Reagan gave to them?
When I was a kid, Desert Storm was like Rocky 4. Because I was like, oh, we just went over there and whooped that ass in like 3 days. It was like USA. That's all I knew about the war. I had no idea.
Culturally, that's what happened. So like the danger, the danger you feel from these movies, where you're addressing it like like the Squad's going to confront, the Goonies are going to confront that danger.
Yeah,
that is where that is why it's like that, because then it happens in real life. We're like, fine, fuck it, we're going to go fucking squad up over there too. Then
I did
back
not think
home.
we would get to Desert Storm on this podcast.
What makes this movie special?
I'm just telling you.
What makes this movie very special is there is no kid movie like it at all. Because when kids in movies have this much autonomy of, I have just decided we are the Monster Squad and we are the only ones who are going to be able to do this. When they have that much autonomy, adults are idiots. In every single no outlier movie besides for this one. In this movie, we are the Monster Squad and we are the only ones who are going to take care of this, even though one of them has a dad who is a police officer who is currently investigating all of it. That dad seems like a good cop. He's putting the pieces together. He's the only one who sees that there's a connection. It's also his movie. That's Shane Black writing shit in his friend's movie. That's what makes it so interesting, is that like a movie where it's like about the kids start forming the Goonies or the Monster Squad should have idiot parents, or parents that, like, in the 80s it would be parents that just like you never see. In the 90s it would be parents that don't understand anything. Parents just don't understand. This has both of them. And like what it is like son and father in a race to stop these bad guys. Both of them finding different information as they go, and they meet in the middle when he gets on the walkie-talkie and says, "Where are you? Where are you?" He's like, "We're down at City Hall. Get here now." He didn't even like. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, you're on this shit. Let's go. Let's do this.
Let's roll.
You can help." I didn't even think about that. Dad, you'd be great for this.
Dad, you could be a useful member of the squad, but first you have to pass a monster test.
Bring a gun. It'll be great.
But see, that's the thing, too, because his dad, like, even when he's, like, his son's questioning him, right? Like, I feel like in older movies like this, the dad be like, shut up, boy, or whatever. And this one, his dad's like, Sean, please put your basic lid on it. But then he comes home, he crawls out on the fucking, roof with him to, like, make amends. For whatever. He's a good dude. I love that.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the dad character, because that actor, first of all, does this really well. Because the exact lines you're saying could have been done differently by a different actor. What I see from him is a guy who's really tired from work. Mm-hmm. And it would be the easiest thing in the world for him at this moment to just tell his kid to fuck off.
Yeah.
Genuinely what he wants to do back here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But he's not going to do it. And the worst he gets, the most frustrated he gets, is when he's like, I'm going to miss the plot of the movie. The plot?
Yeah. Come on, I've seen 12 of these.
Like, he's just like, that's where he's just like, I can't anymore. But like that moment, can I have $5 anyway? Absolutely.
Yeah. Fucking cool dad, man.
Yeah, man. We didn't have to steal from our parents yet. That was the 90s movies.
But see, that's the thing, because even Eugene's dad, right, who has one of the funniest scenes in the movie, and he's like, "Oh, get out of here!" Whoa, he's scaring him away, and behind him is the mummy in the closet.
All the dads are great guys.
Well, the dad's just like, "This is fuck night. Like, this is the one night where we fuck. You're not coming into our bed." Because I saw that scene now as like a dad, and I was like, "Oh, I know exactly what's happening." That's like I've been waiting all week for this. Don't fucking come to my room.
That actor is doing it perfectly too. Like the characterization of that, I see that man as a guy who is a fun-loving dude during the day.
Yeah.
Like he got pulled out of bed. Ooh, look at these big scary monsters.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You probably had to let his erection go down before he could even go to Eugene's room. He's like, chill the fuck out. But even then, he's not like being mean to him. He's just like, hey, if this keeps up, no more monster magazines. You know what I mean? Like, that's all he does.
Yeah.
Like, that's a very relatable parent.
He's tired. He sounds like a man who's just been woken up by some bullshit.
Yeah. We don't all have the freedom to just focus on monster battling all day. So we got shit to do.
That is, I don't know who the casting director of this movie is, but like, the Wolfman as a human only gets like, 7 minutes of screen time?
Oh, probably not even.
Oh, but John Grease takes it to the mat,
as
man.
A human being, great. Eugene's dad, that 45 seconds, killer, amazing.
That's what you got to do in these kinds of movies.
Yeah,
everybody gives it their all.
Even the principal, who comes off very weird, is still memorably entertaining.
Yes.
I think science is cool.
He makes acting decisions. He knows who his character is. I dig it, man. Like, he is so fucking good.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm one of those people that, like, it's just so ingrained in me. I love everything about. I remember being a kid and being like, Stephen King rules. What's that? And being like, now I have to learn about Stephen King, right? Because I was too young to be reading Stephen King. But I remember going to my Nana's house and finding the It movie. And being like, what the fuck?
I've got to finish these thumbnails for a pitch. Like, should have done it 3 days ago. And I was drawing while I was listening to the movie. And there was shit that you were talking about, the visuals, that I was just like, oh man, I didn't even like see the garlic pizza on the face.
Yeah.
I didn't look at the unraveling of the thing. I was listening to the dialogue like a chump, and I had.
Yeah, it's just a fucking great. I think that's the thing, right? Like Abbott and Costello meets the monsters, right? That was like a perfect like family outing kind of movie. I think this is just that, but for an '80s audience that needed it kicked up a little bit, right? But like to me, this was. I always wanted to be on a roof with my dad watching Monster Squad on the screen. You know what I mean? Like that was the kind of vibe that this movie gave me.
I think about that.
Yeah,
like,
it's in my 5 like most important movies.
Bag, like that looked great. I used to sit on my roof outside my house, in my bedroom that I had like when I was a teenager. I would like you could open it up and you can go up on a roof like that, and like. Just, I would picture that feeling of like that sack of food with no logo on it.
But he doesn't even like talk. It's just like something they've clearly done a bunch of times, right? They just like walk into this lived moment. I love it.
That's why I think my feelings about it after today are that it's just like I saw this as such a perfect movie, and like that is such good direction of just like. Shove fries in your face, give him the binoculars. Oh, this is the best part. Why? You've seen it already? How?
Yeah.
And that means that like he's on his second or third tuning into the radio station and watching it.
I never even thought of that.
And he and his dad have this watching movies together thing, which is what I have with my dad. Like before we recorded, we were talking about like my dad showed me Ice Pirates. That's not. Kids shouldn't watch that. We watched Ice Pirates. We watched. He loved pirates, I guess. Time Bandits. Just and that's. I think there's something we're missing in a new world where everything is available all the time. Where like back then, if you wanted to hang out with your dad, you watched whatever he wanted to watch.
Yeah.
But that's what it was. And that's like the benefit of this, like that was the benefit of the cable generation. Like we grew up having to watch certain things because that's what was on. Or like if someone was willing to go rent a video, like I remember going to the grocery store renting videos with my parents. Like that was my treat at the end of the week if I was, if school went well or something like that, or if they were going to go somewhere. But like I also knew that was something I could do with my parents. And it's the same thing, man. It's like for being a movie about, camaraderie and in the face of like crazy danger, there is this like warm, toasty feeling you get for some reason about the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
It's a powerful film, man.
And we watch Dracula every once in a while, but Wolfman, I don't know why. Lon Chaney's Wolfman was like
awesome.
a movie
Same.
we would watch all the time. Speaking of, I don't know if this is an homage to Wolfman. My favorite thing, like, that's just like crazy in that movie is Lon Chaney is looking at a woman with a telescope in her window. And then he finds the place she works and is like, "Hey, how you doing? I saw you in my telescope. I dig your..."
What a line.
I think...
you get away with a lot back then.
I think Rudy is an homage to that. I'm just going to say that right now.
I'd buy that. I think there's a lot of those little pastiches in this movie.
I think I could forgive Rudy everything except for the, hey, they're having a 2-for-1 special. Although, dude, I'll never forget.
Was a fucking 40-year-old man. Rudy is 14. I'm going to give him a pass on a lot of that.
That's true. Well, dude, I'll never forget the first time I saw a naked lady was my buddy found a naked picture of his own mother and brought it on the school bus.
He brought it to school?
Yeah, he brought it on the fucking school. This kid was fucking weird. He was like the weird guy, and I think it was his like, this will get me in to like talk to people. And he's like, "Hey, check out this. You like naked ladies?" And we're like, "I don't know, maybe." We're in like 4th grade. And so we're on the bus, and he's like, "Look," and I remember we looked at it and we're all like, "Ew, gross." That's just how it happened.
I wasn't going to bring this up, but there are specific reasons that I said on that roof. Sometimes.
Hey, we all had, dude, I used to shoot hoops without a shirt on in my backyard, blasting Aqua's Barbie Girl. Because I thought the girl who lived next door would look down on me and be like, "Holy shit, we got to have sex." I didn't even know what sex was, but I was in that like freshman in high school, 8th grade, right? Where I was like, I know this is something I need to happen, but I didn't have a lot of access to information at that age. But I was like, all right, we got to start kicking. So we all did weird shit like that.
I blame this particular brand of toxic masculinity on movies. How many fucking movies have the hero of the movie staring at a girl through a window? It's fine. Also, it's funny. So many movies.
Well, dude, think about one of the seminal movies for guys our age was we all went to the theater and thought American Pie was the funniest movie ever.
Yeah.
And that's just a really fucking gross scene when you look back on it. But that was like a major release where everyone's like, "This is hilarious." And you're like, yeah, that girl's just being like outed to all these fucking creeps, including Blink-182, watching the fucking webcam.
But, okay, so my neighbor, who I looked through her window, through my window, got her, like, this is the 21st century movie that they would make. She was having a sleepover, and she called my house. I was watching. You're not going to put this in.
We did.
I was just hanging out like, sleepover, just like the movies. Just like, oh, God, I love... whatever. So my mom, you've got a phone call. She gave me the house phone. I was like, "Hello," and she's like, "Hi."
Like looking in your eyes, like, "Hello."
Yes, her and all the girls behind her laughing.
Yeah.
Oh,
we used to do that. We'd know where the girls' sleepovers were, and we'd go and like doorbell ditch them all night. To try to like just see if we could see girls. Like, it was a weird time.
Woman.
Yeah, woman. But that's it, man. I just think this movie's fucking awesome, man. Like every time I watch it, it's very teleportative to me, right? Like I feel like I'm right back to that, like some of the happiest days of my life, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just stoked we finally got to talk about it, right? We did a nice little movie therapy session on Monster Squad.
And with Jay.
Yeah, so Jay's already put a very ambitious slate of other movies we got to discuss. Yeah. So you'll be seeing Jay a lot on the feed probably in the next year or so. Jay, would you like to tell the people one more time where they can find your stuff?
At J Rollins Art, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
TikTok. There you go.
TikTok.
Old influencer Jay.
I just did it, but like I know I used to make fun of Twitter too, and this is just the way the world's going.
That's how it is, man.
It's Jay, by the way, not the letter J. Jay. J Rollins Art.
I'll have all that in the details so you guys can go find it. Thanks again, Jay, for joining us. Stay tuned, guys. Another podcast tomorrow. 31 days, 31 pods. I hope you're enjoying it as much as we are. Bye.